Today's Saturday. Even though we've had sporadic rains, we have 3 crews right now setting up irrigation, whether drip, overhead, sprinklers. I guess it's easier to put the water on than it is to take it off. So I guess I'd rather have this. I'd rather have this because some areas of Ontario right now are very wet and very flooded with all the storms that have been passing through. But so today we're just going to see and check on the guys running the drip irrigation into the early fields of broccoli. These are the fields that were actually hit heavily with the frost. We seem to have recovered. Now we need to continue the growth and have it constantly growing all the way through. Otherwise, with the shock and everything these plants have been through, you could get into a bolt situation. And by bolting, what we mean is they'll flower prematurely, and there's no market, there's no value in that. Christian, ¿está bien? This is Christian. Christian is our second-hand man. He helps us with all the irrigation. He's been training for the last 2 years. Hi, Christian. All good? Good. Okay. Christian's been with us 3 or 4 years. He's actually a family member of another person who's been here over probably close to 15 years. And so he's been training in how to do a lot of the irrigation. In here, you'll see all these drip tubes in between every bed. There's 2 lines for every bed. If you look in closely, you'll see here, these tubes will be dripping. They're not full pressure yet, but if you look close enough, you'll see they drip. So we'll leave it on for every stage, every section in the field. We'll leave it on for approximately 12 hours, depending on how big the zone is. And this is one of the most efficient ways of watering because there's less evaporation. The plant takes it up slower. The wind doesn't affect you. There's a lot of benefits, but it is more labor intense. So all these lines of drip are put in manually. There is some machines out there that'll help you apply it and put it in, but there's still labor needed, and we've evaluated it, and it doesn't make a lot of sense for us. We only do our early fields because we only have access to a well here, which produces enough water for drip, but for overhead consumes a lot more water, and we don't have those capabilities on this part of our farms. So this is another field now. They're just preparing, they're setting up. So as you can see, every field it's split into different zones. So we have a main line that comes in on a bigger 3-inch line, and it gets divided up into smaller 2-inch lines, which all your connectors to each individual line connects to. Once it's set up, it's actually a very easy system to manage, and you can control it by zones, right? So if you only want this half the field to get watered, you can shut the other side off, or vice versa. This is something my father started years ago because this farm is actually one of the earliest farms in probably York region, or if not even Ontario. So we can almost compete with the Western Ontario growers here because these fields are so high and so dry, and they got good drainage. So this irrigation allows us to compete because sometimes it gets too dry. Like this spring has actually been dry for us. We can actually start to push our crop now to get to maturity stage harvest. Usually the first couple days I like to monitor it, make sure it's all working properly. You know what, the one thing about farming in Ontario or Canada in general is you gotta start that circle every year. Everything needs to be checked, everything needs to be monitored. You know, things sitting around in the winter, it's not necessarily good. As much as there's no wear and tear, but things, seals and things rust. So you need to make sure everything's kind of gets properly lubricated and maintained and functioning properly, and that's something usually that's for me or for Dominic, my father, or Anthony. We need to make sure things are actually functioning the way they're supposed to. Otherwise, mistakes happen, especially with water. Water is more damaging than actually drought, believe it or not. A lot of people think water is lots of water, you're gonna have big crops. That's not the case. Water's worse. A year like last year, we suffered in the spring and early summer there very, very bad because everything was flooded. So especially in the low-lying areas, poor drainage areas, water is very dangerous. Could be more harmful than could be more harmful than drought, believe it or not. Like I said earlier, you can put the water on, you can't take it out. So here you'll see to the left, we actually have one of our later strawberry fields just starting to go into bloom. You know what they went through earlier on, it's quite shocking, the growth. When we see canopy like that, we're very happy. It's hard to, berries don't like to be in full sun. They get sometimes scalded. They need that canopy. It helps us a lot too. It even helps for picking. It just makes overall quality better. On your right hand side there, you'll see this is our first patch of artichokes. We usually have a lot of struggles with weeds on the first patches of almost everything, but it's just because of the temperatures, the cool wet weather. We have to we usually weed these by hand. We've been doing some trial projects on plastic with artichokes, you can see on the left there. So far I haven't been impressed, but these also went through -5 for 4 nights in a row. So considering they're doing pretty good, but we'll see. Results will show in about a couple of weeks when we get some good consistent heats. Right now it's still been a little up and down. Here we finally have been able to catch some footage of our lime spreader. These guys like pokeroo, and it just it disappears and then you find them. But basically, I waited here with Michael to try to show you how it's applied and what we do. I think we've seen a few comments in the past and some videos from myself or Dominic or Anthony about liming and how it helps adjust our pH. We are primarily a cole crop grower, basically cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. This family of crucifers, they're called the crucifer family, are very prone to certain root diseases called clubroot. What lime does, it adjusts to pH. Anything with an acidic pH of lower than 7.5 is more prone to clubroot. Clubroot basically is something that affects the roots and doesn't allow the plant to uptake any food or nutrients, and the roots become like little clubs, and hence I guess the name why they call it clubroot. The strain that we have, this process helps. We saw results within the first season of this process. It's an expensive process. It's time consuming. It's heavy. It's a heavy product. We've invested in equipment to get us to this point. And we have gotten, with the strain of clubroot we have actually gotten results of almost 90-95% success, and we're able to continue to grow cole crops. We were almost at a point in our farming in this area, that we had to make a decision. Either we had to completely switch crops, which is not easy to go find customers to go grow something else, and you know what, it's what we know, it's what we're good at, and yes, we can do anything we put our minds to, but you need customers. So the retail is fantastic for a lot of the smaller items we do, but when you're going commercial, 600-700 acres of cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli, you need to have a customer. You don't just switch it over to a different total family like a lettuce or a romaine and then anything like that, because you know what, your customers usually have their vendor base who is growing that for them. That being said, once we saw a problem, started doing our research, what was going to help us continue to grow what we know and what we're good at, especially in this area. So as you can see, it's like a big dust, big cloud, big dust ball. This has to be a calm day, especially this type. So there's two types of lime. There's a calcitic lime and a dolomitic lime. One is more calcium based, and one is more magnesium based. And again, both of them aid to help adjust the pH, help the plant properly take in the nutrition. When the pH is correct, it helps it take it up properly. A big dust storm because this is the calcitic lime, and it's a lot more powdery, and it is going down. So if you actually see, it's the cloud is basically just kind of blows away, but the denser part of the product, I guess is the best way to say it, is actually getting laid on the ground. You can see behind where he's gone and the difference in the soil color, the color in the soil. So this is Jose. You know, Jose's been with us probably 15, 18 years now. A lot of people talked about hire people from here, hire local Canadians. Jose broke his hand about 3 weeks ago. And Jose is very adamant in making sure he does his job. So we're giving him lighter duty because he can only drive, because he can't do lifting or anything else. But Jose's so adamant about doing his job. And you know what? A lot of these guys come here, and this is the kind of people that we have. And basically, he's dedicated to get his job done. He knows this is what he comes here for. He's been doing this job for the last 10 years. He's been with us, like I said, 15 or 18 years now. And you know what? These are the kind of people that you can't just replace. Just a little off topic. But anyhow, so here, what we're doing now is we actually fertilized the other day, and we do a top dress. So after around 3 to 4 weeks after transplanting, we come in and we put a slow release fertilizer combined with a quick reaction fertilizer. So basically the quick one will give it that push. Slow release, the pellets of fertilizer will break down at a lot slower stage. So if you look close enough, you'll see the fertilizer that went down a few days ago. Okay, and that just basically the slow release allows the plant for the next 3 to 4 weeks to finish its life, to have food and nutrients to uptake. If we only put one or the other, we wouldn't have the initial reaction upon spreading, and like in other words, the quicker release, and the slow release is there for the extended period or the remaining period of the life of the plant. So what these guys are doing basically is they're just working it into the ground. This was actually one of the processes that was changed back again to the club root comment. We used to band the fertilizer right in between the plants. This process is done over top. It's spread out right across the field. Where before we used to band it right in, it was more of a concentrated area. I know you guys all like to see Farmer Dom in action, so we'll go catch a vision of Farmer Dom. He likes the camera. So he's actually covering the fertilizer. So once we basically open the land from the winter, we lime it, then we cover the lime, which already happens here. Once the lime is covered, we come back in and we fertilize. Fertilize with it's called a pre-plant fertilizer. And once that's done, you'll see Farmer Dom, my father, he's covering the fertilizer now. And basically, we're ready to plant. Once I get my field squared up and where I want to go and what I want to do, I call in the planters and we start planting. And you'll see what he's doing there. He's covering it, and we got a packer in behind, which helps seal the ground. So with these dry conditions that look like we might be starting to head towards here, and a packer helps keep the soil, keeps the moisture down below. It looks like an easy job, but honestly it's not. I don't want to say it's necessarily an art, but there's a lot of thought. There's a lot of adjustments. Your hand is on, this is, again, back to the skill. We have a few guys that know how to do this, but obviously, you know what, Dominic, my father's been doing it his entire life. You know what, we all grew up on farms, and you need to know, you need to feel the equipment. How deep to go, when to bring it up. You got to listen to the engine. You know what, if your tractor's suffering, either you're too deep or your soil conditions are not right to be doing what you're doing. There's so much that needs to be calculated and calibrated. And if this is not all done correctly, I'll show you in a second where the guys are planting and how pretty much easy it is. It can become a nightmare when you're planting. In other words, all the plants do not go in the ground properly, and they need to be checked if the land was not worked up properly the first, second, or third time. If things are done correctly, planters, the bigger machine can plant up to 10 acres a day. The smaller machines, 5-6 acres a day. Again, that's all optimal conditions, optimal situations. Nothing's perfect. It is farming. I mean, things break, so it's you deal with the problems. But if you have the right foundation, like anything else, it will come out properly. And so this machine here is probably a little different than the ones you've seen in the past. This they call this. They're all mechanical machines, but this is a Model 5000. This primarily based at the spacing. Each row is at 36 inches. Plants primarily are cauliflower. Cauliflower needs a little more room, a little more space. So this is why they're not as, the rows aren't as close as the other one. They're not on beds. So you can see here, there's a driver in the front who controls the entire machine. And then we got a guy, which when we acquired this machine, we never had a guy walking behind, but with this machine and so many rows, so many people, you need a guy to be able to manage it. So this guy manages the back, whether it's the adjustment of the machine or making sure there's water coming out, because each plant gets an injection of water, and making sure that the ground is sealing up for the most part, right? Again, back to the foundation. The soil's in great condition. Plants should go in properly. I was born and raised on the farm. I mean, we've always been here. It's a reason. It's whether my dad, went through different phases of his life and what he was doing, and initially, my dad had his own store, which gave him all the experience he needed for how to grow a good product, because he knows what a retail needs, and that's why even our own retail is done phenomenal, because people really like how we present stuff and how we do stuff. And even before that, he was a licensed mechanic. So believe it or not, that does come hand in hand. If you can fix your own equipment or be able to manage your own maintenance and then so on and so forth, you'd be very surprised how efficient you can be, right? And so I always, as a kid, I was always helping, whether it was in the shop as a mechanic with my dad. I was holding a light. I used to cry and scream. I hated holding the light. And then now you realize how beneficial holding the light was and watching what he was doing, because there's so much experience that was gained by just watching. And now there's the knowledge I have. Guys ask me now what to do and how to do things and how to correct things, right? Even a simple machine like we're going to look at in a minute. It's not just pop a plant in the ground and watch it grow. There's a lot of mechanical that's in that piece of equipment. The timing is obviously the biggest part of it, and then there's wear and tear. You need to be able to either fix it or calibrate it in order to function properly, in order to present a proper plant in the ground like that.
Hey guys, if you guys watched this video and you liked it, then you know what, give us the thumbs up, and you know what, subscribe, because we're going to be doing this all season long this summer, so we want you guys to watch us all the time.